Hey team, you probably get tons of letters like this, but I really need to get this one off my chest. What happened to me still gives me goosebumps. Back in 2014, I took a short trip to Santa Fe with my husband Diego. It was supposed to be a relaxing long weekend. No stress, just mountains, sunsets, and local food. We stayed at this rustic little hotel called La Paloma. Not fancy, but charming. Adobe walls, handmade quilts, creaky floors. Very New Mexico. The first 2 nights were uneventful. We hiked, ate way too many tacos, and slept like babies. On the third night, though, something felt off. I woke up around 2 a.m. and couldn't fall back asleep. I kept hearing sounds, soft knocks, like someone tapping their fingers against the wall. At first, I thought it was just the pipes or maybe someone walking in the hallway. But the knocking kept moving, from one wall to the next, like someone pacing. Diego was sound asleep. I didn't want to wake him, so I got up and checked the hallway through the peephole. Empty. Totally quiet. Not even a breeze. But the knocking didn't stop. I crawled back into bed, trying to convince myself it was all in my head, that maybe I was just overtired. But just as I started to doze off, a cold draft passed over me. Not from the window, not from the door. Just a sudden chill, like someone was standing next to the bed. I reached for Diego, and he stirred. "Do you feel that?" I whispered. He didn't answer, just turned to the wall and kept sleeping. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt like something was watching me. The next morning, I told Diego everything. He laughed it off, said I probably had a nightmare. I wanted to believe that. Really. But something was off. As we packed up to leave, I walked into the bathroom and caught my reflection in the mirror. Except, it wasn't right. The reflection blinked, but I hadn't. I froze, stared at the mirror. Nothing happened, but I swear it blinked first. I turned away, trying to laugh at myself. Told Diego I was just tired, but I knew I wasn't imagining it. In the car, as we drove away, I looked back at the hotel. There was someone standing in the window of our room, watching us leave. It wasn't housekeeping, and it sure as hell wasn't me. A week later, I started getting calls from an unknown number, just static. No voice. Once I answered, and I heard breathing. Slow, steady. Then a whisper. Still watching. I tried blocking the number. It didn't help. The calls kept coming from different lines. Diego said I was imagining things, that maybe the whole hotel thing got in my head. But then one night, he heard it too. The phone rang. He picked up. Static. And then that same whisper. Still watching. Diego turned pale. He couldn't explain it. And that terrified me even more. We moved. New city. New apartment. I changed my number. For a while it was quiet, until one night I walked past a store window and caught my reflection. Except, it wasn't mine. It was wearing my clothes, standing like me, but it wasn't blinking. I stood there, frozen, watching myself, watching me. Then it smiled, and I knew. I hadn't left it behind. It had followed me, and it's still watching. You know, we get a lot of letters here. Stories about creaks in the attic, shadows in mirrors, voices in empty rooms. But this next one, it stayed with me. It's not about ghosts exactly. It's about something older, something that doesn't just haunt you. It keeps you. Hi, team. I've never written into a podcast before, but I've been listening to your show for a while, and now I feel like I need to share something. 2 months ago, my mother passed away. It wasn't sudden or shocking. It was long, slow. and painfully quiet. We knew it was coming. Cancer. We had time to prepare, but that doesn't mean we were ready. I spent the last days with her in a hospice room that smelled like bleach and endings. I held her hand. I watched her breathe. She was calm. I wasn't. That was the hardest part. She had made peace with it. I hadn't. On her final day, she took my hand and looked at me with clear, focused eyes. "Don't be afraid," she whispered. "You'll never be alone. He'll protect you now." I asked who she meant. She said it was her guardian, a presence that had protected her all her life, passed down from her mother. She told me he would come to me next, but I wouldn't believe it until I saw the 10 marks. She listed them. A coin returned, a silent bell, a path cleared, a saved fall, a warning unheard, a fear answered, a scent of old earth, a touch of cold fur, a voice not your own, and finally, a gaze returned. The funeral passed in a blur, and in the weeks that followed, I almost forgot her final words. But then the first sign appeared. I was leaving the store on a rainy evening when I dropped a coin, a quarter, in the parking lot. It vanished under the car. I looked, didn't find it, and went home. At home, I emptied my pockets, and there it was. The same quarter, dry, shiny, right on top of my wallet. I tried to explain it. Maybe I had a second one. Maybe I imagined dropping it. But something cold settled in my stomach. The first mark. A few days later, the second sign. I was walking past an old church. The bell tower hasn't worked in decades, but I heard it. A deep, clear, lonely sound. One single toll. I looked up. The bell was still. No one else reacted. The street was quiet, a silent bell. By the time the third sign came, I'd already stopped sleeping well. I was jumpy, nerves frayed. At work, a hallway I used daily was blocked by a huge cart full of tools. No way past. I sighed and went the long way. A minute later, I returned, and the cart was gone. No sound, no workers, nothing. A path cleared. The fourth sign happened on a Tuesday evening. I was walking down the stairs in my apartment building, lost in thought. When my foot slipped, I pitched forward, body twisting, the floor rushing up toward my face. I remember thinking, "This is it. I'm going to break something." But the impact never came. Something stopped me mid-air, a forceful grip on my chest, invisible but solid. Then I was gently set on my feet. The stairwell was empty, completely empty. A saved fall. From that moment on, I felt watched, constantly. The back of my neck stung as if someone's gaze rested there all day long. Then came the fifth sign. I was about to step into an elevator at a mall when a powerful, instinctive dread hit me. A sharp, silent warning. Don't go in. I hesitated. The doors closed without me. 10 seconds later, an awful grinding screech came from the shaft, followed by the emergency alarm. A warning unheard. That same evening, walking home through a quiet park, a large dog broke free from its owner and charged at me, barking, teeth bared. It was inches away when it suddenly froze, then whimpered, tail between legs, and bolted as if fleeing from something behind me. A fear answered. By then, I was 6 marks in. I couldn't pretend anymore. Something, someone, was with me. I felt it, trailing behind me when I walked, standing in the corners when I turned off the lights, shifting in reflections I caught too late. And then the 7th sign appeared. A smell, earthy, musky, damp like wet fur and soil, a scent that didn't belong in my apartment. It came and went without warning, sometimes right behind me, sometimes from the hallway, always close, too close. The 8th sign came late at night. I was lying in bed, half asleep, when something brushed against my hand. It felt like coarse, cold animal fur, bristly and damp. I jerked my hand back, heart hammering. The room was empty, a touch of cold fur. The ninth sign came the next night. I was finally asleep when a low, wet whisper pressed against my ear. It wasn't any language I knew, but I felt the meaning. Mine. I didn't sleep again after that. I spent the night sitting in the corner of my living room, gripping a baseball bat. The 10th sign came at dawn. I felt it waiting for me in the hallway. Heavy, ancient, patient. For the first time, I wasn't running. I stood up and whispered, "I know you're here. Show yourself." The air in the hallway thickened, shimmered. A shape formed, tall, stooped, covered in matted black fur. Its arms were long, its fingers brushing the floorboards, and then it lifted its head. It had the face of a goat, narrow, bearded with thick, curling horns. But its eyes were human, intelligent, ancient. Watching me, a gaze returned, the final mark. I should have screamed, but I didn't. I just stood there, frozen, as it watched me with the same peaceful expression my mother had the day she died. It is my guardian, my inheritance, my burden. Now I write this in daylight, and it's still here, standing in the corner, watching, waiting. Mom said I would be safe. But tell me, how do you live with something that protects you, but terrifies you more than death ever could? I don't know what to do. My mother said I would be safe, but it doesn't feel safe. I'm exhausted. I'm afraid to sleep. I'm afraid to be awake. I'm afraid to see it again. I tried talking to my friends, but they think I'm losing my mind. So I'm writing to you, hoping someone will understand. Please, if anyone listening has experienced something like this, please tell me I'm not alone. Wow. Just wow. I have chills right now. Listen, friend, I don't know what you saw, but I can tell you this. Sometimes the line between protection and possession is thinner than we think. Maybe it is looking after you. Maybe it was your mother's guardian. But if its presence is making your life unbearable, then maybe it's time to set some boundaries. And to our listeners, have you ever felt watched, saved by something you couldn't explain? Let us know. Hello. I used to laugh at scary stories. My girlfriend even called me Señor Skeptic. We visited the island of the dolls during a trip to Xochimilco. The day was rainy, gray, almost no tourists. Just us, our guide, and the boatman. On the island, we saw a photo of the original owner, the man who found the body of the drowned girl. His eyes looked empty, haunted. The whole place felt wrong, like it didn't want us there. There were dolls everywhere, old, rotten, eyeless, but also newer ones. One from Lady Gaga, one from Tim Burton. My girlfriend brought one too, as a tribute. But she didn't leave it in the house like others. She placed it beside an unnamed wooden cross near the shore, said it felt right. From that moment, things changed. Wind picked up. Birds started screeching. The sky dimmed unnaturally fast. I felt watched, touched. Something pulled my sleeve. Panicked, I grabbed my girlfriend's hand and ran to the boat. But once inside, she wasn't there. She was still on land, running toward me. I don't know who or what I touched. I looked at my hand as if it were some kind of foreign object, not mine. People always say that a ghost's touch is cold, but it wasn't. I could still feel the warmth of that tiny, warm palm. I started shaking violently. The guide noticed and assumed I had caught a chill in the rain. He even offered me some paracetamol, but all I could do was beg to leave the island as soon as possible. I swear I was even ready to jump into the water and swim through the murky canal just to reach civilization. All three of them crowded around me. My girlfriend, the guide, the boatman. But I still felt that someone else was standing there with us. Now I'm ashamed of it. Maybe I looked like a hysterical child, but I have never in my life wanted anything more than to teleport out of that place. If our guide is listening to this now, I think his name was Diego, I want to apologize for my moment of weakness. My girlfriend jokes about it now, says I've gone soft. But the truth is, I can't stop thinking about it. The cross, the island, that feeling. That night changed something in me. So I'm writing to you, looking for someone who might understand. Yeah, I've heard of that island. Pretty sure it's the one where a girl drowned and the owner started collecting dolls for her, right? I saw a documentary once. The photos alone gave me chills. Honestly, man, maybe your imagination just went wild. But hey, I'm not saying it wasn't real. I wasn't there, and I want to support you. Maybe something really did happen. What matters is that you're okay now. Let it go. And maybe, don't go back. Hello, team. I don't know if this fits the kind of stories you usually read, but I hope you can help me figure out what's happening. Strange things started a couple of months ago, small things at first. A mug would fall off the shelf, or the lights would flicker. But then I started noticing the doors. They'd creak open by themselves. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night to find my bedroom door wide open. I always lock it before bed. Always. Then came the sounds. Claws, I think. That's what it sounds like. Something sharp scraping along the walls, just behind the plaster. Once I followed the sound down the hallway, and the moment I reached the end, everything went silent. I stood there for a full minute, not breathing, just listening. Then I heard it again. Behind me, this time. I turned. Nothing. A few nights ago, my TV turned on by itself at 3 a.m. No volume. Just static. The weirdest part? My remote didn't work until morning, and now I feel like I'm not alone. Even as I write this, I keep glancing over my shoulder. I don't know why. I haven't told anyone. I'm scared they'll think I'm losing it. Do you think it's something paranormal? Or something else? I really need to know. AL. It may be a classic haunting, but there's also a chance that someone, or something, is trying to make contact. Have you ever experienced something like this? Write to us. Let's figure it out together. Hi. I know you get a lot of strange letters, but I hope you'll read mine. It's about a doll. A very old doll that belonged to my grandmother. When she died, the doll passed to my mom, and after she passed, it came to me. She has glass eyes, blue, too blue, and they follow you, even when the room is dark. My mom always told me not to look at her too long, said it made her feel strange, watched, judged. I laughed it off for years. Just an old toy, right? But things started happening after I brought her into my house. My cat wouldn't go near her. I found her staring at the doll from across the room, ears flat, tail twitching. Then I started losing sleep. I'd wake up to creaking floorboards, whispering, and always those blue eyes, glowing faintly in the dark. Once I swore I heard my mother's voice, just one sentence, barely audible. Don't let her out. Last week I came home and the doll was gone from the shelf. I found her in the hallway, facing the mirror. I live alone. I put her back, taped the cabinet shut, sprinkled salt, lit candles, But every night since, I see her reflection in the mirror. Even when the doll is still in the cabinet, she's always watching, always smiling. And sometimes when I blink, she's closer. Well, baby, this sounds like a case straight out of Ed and Lorraine Warren's files. The only thing I can tell you, make sure you're not seeing that doll in your dreams. You're sure you're not sleepwalking, right? Either way, if any of our listeners have ever experienced something like this, we want to hear from you. Good night, everyone, and stay safe out there. I'll never forget that wedding. Not because it was beautiful, but because it made me stop looking people in the eye. I was invited to the wedding of my cousin Laura. She was marrying a man named Victor. They'd only been together less than a year. When Victor entered the hall, I felt it instantly. Something was wrong. He was too pale, too tall, too smiley. He smiled at the altar, smiled when Lara walked toward him, smiled when they kissed, smiled when they left the hall. At first, I thought he was just nervous, but at the banquet, he kept smiling the entire time. He didn't talk, he didn't laugh, just sat and chewed with a grin. When they came to our table, his eyes twitched strangely, scanning faces. I whispered to my sister, "Do you see it?" "He's not blinking, stop it." "You're just jealous," she said. But I wasn't jealous. I was scared. Later in the bathroom, I saw him again, standing by the stall door. Same suit, same smile. But under the light, translucent skin. He stood next to me, didn't say a word, just stared. That's when I realized he hadn't spoken all day. I started backing away, and then his face changed. The skin sagged, the features slid downward. Then he smiled again, and it all snapped back. I ran to Lara. "We have to leave. Now." She just laughed. "Are you serious?" Then Victor walked by, hand on my shoulder. I felt cold, like ice on my skin. 3 days later, my skin began to swell. This morning I looked in the mirror. My face felt loose. I don't know what he did, but I smile more now. Because if I stop, it feels like my face will slide off.